Happy Thursday, everybody. So glad everybody, somebody could watch us tonight. We got a good show lined up for you. We are going to talk about ghosts. We're going to give you probably some of the scariest stories that we've heard. We're going to talk about their origins. We're going to talk about what this whole business is, and we'll also talk maybe about the business of ghosts itself, ghost hunting, the pros and cons. How's everybody doing tonight? How are you doing, Mark? How are you doing, Rob?
I'm doing pretty good, having a pretty good week. It's really warm out here. We actually had to turn on the air conditioner today. I'm waiting for Rob to explode, be like, "You dirty."
No, it's cool, man. It's beginning of May here in Rochester. We're good, man.
You're still getting snow.
We did last week, yeah, but we're good. Yeah, no, we're cool. We're cool. This was a good week again. Ace Frehley turned 70 this week, and again, if he can do it, there's hope for the rest of us.
All right. Sure. He's still going. How old is he now?
Who's that?
Ozzy?
Oh God, he's what? He's got to be older than Ace. He's got to be in mid 70s, right? I don't know.
I've heard that his health and mental state is deteriorating quite badly.
Uh,
Yeah, that's too bad. I know. I listened to his last album. It almost sounded like a goodbye album, but I guess he's got a bunch of new songs recorded to do another one. So go Oz.
yeah. Hey, listen. You know, the one thing that's really strange too is musically everything this week has been popping up Dio. I don't know if you've noticed, but
I have actually.
Facebook has been throwing up a lot of stuff about Dio, and today there was a picture of Dio and Doro Pesh
Yeah.
together. God, I miss Dio. I miss Ronnie real bad. You
Well,
know,
speaking of ghost stories and what have you, I saw a bunch of links today too about a King Diamond graphic novel of the Abigail album, which would be pretty
oh,
awesome.
I saw that too. That comes across every once in a while, like the King Diamond news. I
Yeah.
think it's because I'm friends with Ghost.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh man, I love me some King Diamond. It took me a while to get into him. My friend Iris gave me one of his CDs for Christmas. I was like, all right, I'll give it a shot. And I was just like, wow, this is really cool stuff.
are you into Volbeat at all?
Yes and no. I like that song he did with them.
Yeah,
Um,
great song.
they do have a very distinct sound, but the more they put out, this more they just sound. It's one of those things where it's like, is it them or a parody of them?
Well, what happened was Caggiano left
Yeah, yeah.
Anthrax.
Rob Caggiano left Anthrax and joined them.
Yeah, and
Well,
now they're starting to click a little bit better. The last, but
yeah, that dude was a great guitarist. I was really bummed when he left Anthrax. I really liked him, but now they got the guy from Shadows Fall, who's he's no slouch.
well, they're never going to go back to uh, what was his name, the
Dan Spitz.
Stan Spitz. I mean, come on,
You
you
know,
know.
what's funny though is he was always the weakest doing the leads of the big four.
But what he did there was perfect for that band.
It was, but you had Slayer with Kerry and Jeff. You had Megadeth with Dave and his line of virtuosos,
Yeah,
and then you
he had
had
Marty Friedman for a while.
yeah. Yeah, it's like every time Dave switched up guitarists, he got somebody better and better and better, which is pretty impressive.
So let's talk about Ghost.
Oh,
I am a big fan of the Cardinal Capia era.
see, I, I like Papa 3 the best.
Okay. Oh, we're ghosts. There's an S. Sorry,
Oh,
I thought it was ghost.
No,
I thought we were just
there's an
talking.
S in the exclamation
but
mark.
Sorry.
I have seen Ghost live. I saw them right as they were hitting their upward trajectory, right before Meliora dropped. So it was like a smaller club, and it was a really cool show.
I'm just I'm amazed at how much they how much he garners. Matthias, he just doesn't seem to ever slow down.
Yeah.
So But ghosts. We
My
should probably talk about ghosts
Oh yeah, those things, those
with
pest
the S. Like,
bastards.
I wanted to talk to Ash about Dexter too, because
Yeah, big news
I
coming out of
felt
the
the
Showtime camp for Dexter this week.
from like 800 miles away. I felt Ash's pants move. When
Yeah, the pants got a little smaller today now that a 30-second teaser promo. Not as if I wasn't dry humping the screen after the 10-second promo, which was just an axe literally in a piece of wood, which was quite literally what I was experiencing at the time. And then a brief voiceover. But now we got the 30-second teaser promo, which actually shows a little bit of a leaner Michael C. Hall. I mean, he's a little bit older, but, it's still Dexter and, sort of had that trademark, devilish Dexter smile. So I was pretty happy to see that they're ramping up the promotional engine for this. So we should be getting that this fall. I am a fan that is probably way bigger of a fan than I should probably even admit to. We have the drink coasters that are the blood slides, and they're actually in the wooden box. Right now I'm staring at the Dexter bobblehead. I bought way too many of the Fright Rags collection of Dexter shirts that was just released. Like, it had so many elements of a great show for me for so many different reasons. And the one thing that had always impressed me about the show is that the hero is literally a psychopath sociopath, and he's so likable and so funny, and you were just rooting him on. That, like, every episode you were like, I don't care who he has to kill, just make sure the Dexter doesn't get caught.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned the teaser just being like an axe on a block of wood. It just takes me back to the South Park episode where they're trying to see the trailer for the new Terrence and Phillip movie.
Oh yeah.
Which not only is that episode great because it brought us that fight around the world.
Oh yeah, the Russell Crowe parody was pretty great.
But they were trying to get to see this trailer, and all it was a bunch of words flying at the screen, and then like a half a second, Terrence and Phillip, and it was like, oh wow, it's just like summed it up so perfectly.
Like, I'll take anything that I can get, literally, like anything that I can get. But it was a show that I followed from. I didn't catch it like from the first episode, like a few of the other like very viral sort of shows, like Game of Thrones, for example. I caught that when it premiered, and Walking Dead I caught when I premiered. But Dexter, I think it was in a few episodes, and it was like word of mouth. And what's always strange is when somebody like approaches you at work and they're like, "Hey, I watched a show that I thought you'd really like," and then they explain to you that it's a show about a sociopath hiding in plain sight, like trying to get along with his coworkers, and I'm like, and you think that I'd like, you thought of me, when you were watching this show? It's like, I'm flattered? ? But
I get an email from my boss. Hey, I just watched this thing on Netflix that I think you'd love. It was all about Richard Ramirez and the Night Stalker. Thanks, boss.
Right, exactly. So some new things in development this week that I do want to talk about as far as the paranormal side of the cryptid side. Fox TV 35 out of Florida. And did anybody see the Velociraptor footage? This is really, really bizarre stuff.
I was in Florida when it broke.
And so did you see the video?
I did.
It's a Velociraptor.
Are we sure it's not just some Florida man hopped up on something thinking he could fly?
A Florida man, ...
Crackhead.
It's always a Florida man, ...
Always
Right.
Florida man.
Well, remember their Bigfoot is skunk ape. It's just a hairy Florida man that smells bad.
But the Velociraptor, though, again, I don't care what it is in reality. In my mind, there be raptors in Florida, Rob.
There could be a lot of things in Florida. I love it down
there. Raptors being the least of your worries.
Exactly. As I've said before, you drive down Route 4 into Orlando, and there are signs for Universal, Disney, SeaWorld, the Holy Land, which is a Jesus themed amusement park.
Hallelujah.
And every day at 5 p.m., Jesus carries the cross through the park. Machine Gun World is the billboard right after the Holy
Of course it
Land
is.
on Route 4. Come on.
When nails won't do. Machine Gun World. That's the radio teaser. That's the promo.
If you want to see some strange things, look up the Holy Land amusement park. There is
it's
a
bizarre.
mini golf. There's a mini golf at the Holy Land amusement park, and you have to hit your ball between the Roman centurion swords. And there's pictures of people taking selfies in the main walkway of the Holy Land amusement park while Jesus is carrying the cross and covered in blood. There's people leaning out taking a selfie with Jesus covered in blood.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Rob, but in the what is it, Jesus Land or Bible Land or what is it called?
The Holy Land.
On the miniature golf course, don't you pick up a mean handicap if you betray at least one of your fellow golfers before the end of the game?
I believe you do.
And that happens on the Judas back 9, correct?
Correct. Absolutely correct. The best part of the mini golf is, though, there's a pool, like a clear water pool.
But it's actually wine.
And Jesus is it's clear water because Jesus hasn't completely touched it yet. Jesus is slightly hovering over the clear water pool, and all around him there's a dolphin doing dolphin tricks, a statue dolphin doing dolphin tricks.
Oh, that's and this walking on water thing.
Right. There's a shark fin in the water. I don't know. I don't get it, but
as long as there's a laser light show, I'm there.
That I don't know.
Well, if they're not doing it, then they've definitely dropped the ball.
No, they're just projecting Passion of the Christ at the top of a planetarium.
Yeah, that's going to have mixed reviews from the patrons.
I read the book. It was so much better. The book was way better.
So we've got Raptors, which I think is awesome. And in other news, I am now to the point where I had to purchase beard grooming products because of the ZZ Amish bullshit that I've got going on. Yeah, so
nice.
Yeah, so it's like beard. It's Amish actually. It's an Amish product, but it's beard balm, is what they call it. Oh. So it's like it's like a wax, and so you sort of have to. And this is gonna seem really sexual, but you sort of gotta move your fingers in concentric circles over the top of the wax, right? Yeah. Until it either giggles or falls asleep, and then you put your fingers in it to get all the wax out. And then what you want to do after that is put all that shit on your beard. So, and then you put it on the beard, and it sort of holds it all together, so that you don't sneeze. And then you look like you just threw up a member of the Jackson 5.
I use a very good friend of mine has a beard care company.
Ooh.
So I use their patented beard care for mine.
Can you suggest any products, Rob?
I will suggest products for you. It is Bull Elephant brand, and it's all good stuff, man. They have beard wash, the whole deal. Good stuff.
What's the brand?
Bull Elephant.
That's just elephant semen, Rob.
Okay.
Well, I am definitely going to have to try that out.
Like I haven't had that on my face before.
Right. I might not have to buy it. There might already be some there already.
You don't know.
So we're going to talk about some terrifying ghost stories. We're going to talk about the very nature of sort of what people perceive of ghosts, what they are. We'll get into some of Rob's own personal findings, and then we'll just sort of wax intellectual about what our musings are on the subject. So, Raptors aside, so I've always been a fan, and this is just sort of the sensationalism of everything that I get interested in. But the idea of like extreme tales of hauntings, especially things that sort of, end in a terror-filled night, has always really sort of interested me. And I think it's also because even though I like the romantic notion of this idea of sort of like the ladies in white or the wailing women or spectral lights, like I think that those stories tend to have that very gothic romantic connection, where it's lost love or a lover betrayed. I like that kind of stuff too, but I can't help but just love like the Robert the Doll stories too.
Oh, one of my favorites. Absolutely one of my favorites.
I mean, I absolutely love this idea of and the extreme nature sort of the paranormal attributes of Robert the Doll, because I think even though we've seen like Lore has done a piece on Robert the Doll, I believe what was it like one of the myriad of ghost shows out there also have done numerous pieces on Robert the Doll. But strangely enough, like they never sort of seem to go with the crazy stories about Robert the Doll. Like, they sort of regurgitate the same information, but the crazy stories. I mean, this idea, and this is what kills me, is the idea that multiple I won't say owners, but multiple custodians. Like that's much more diplomatic when it
Yeah.
comes to Robert the Doll. Like multiple custodians of Robert the Doll have claimed to see the doll walk. Like they have claimed to see the doll actually move in human fashion.
I'm not familiar with this Robert the Doll story. What is the whole story
How
behind?
versed are you on it, Rob?
Well, I know a little bit of the back lore of it. Robert was a doll made for the child of a very wealthy person who lived in the Keys in Florida. And this person had some things to do with shipping and moving a freight and that, and amassed quite a fortune. And they made this doll, and the child named it Robert. And the doll itself is very unremarkable looking. It's
Right.
just it's like it almost looks like it was Canadian in South Park. It's got a blank face, two black eyes. It's just a blank tan face, blank tan arms. Um, there's a bunch uh, of like stitch marks and things like that where it's been repaired over the years, and it's wearing like a very basic, like what you would see on a kid's, like on a kid sailor outfit.
Right.
Got a little sailor hat, sailor shirt, that kind of deal. And the doll itself is said,
Ah,
there it is.
that's not terrifying at all. Oh,
And
ah,
Robert is said to, he will not let you take
Did
his
anything
picture
happen
unless
while
you
I was in the
ask
bathroom?
him first.
some
Yes.
weird doll in a sailor outfit showed up.
Um, you cannot take Robert's picture unless you ask. I have a friend that was in Florida and went to see Robert and thought it was all, nonsense. And she's like, "You're not going to believe this, but I took like 30 pictures that came out black as night." And then she said, "Hey, can I take your picture?" And the very next picture, you could see Robert in his little case in the picture.
Huh.
He's said to have gotten up and walked around in his enclosure, which is like a 3-foot Lexan box. He is said to have been able to rock a rocking chair back and forth with one of the custodians. They've known him to be left, in a certain spot, and they get up in the middle of the night, and he's in bed with the children of one of the custodians. He is just it's a very active, very creepy idea that this doll of, nothing remarkable just happens to be able to do all of these things. And one show, and I'm trying to remember what it was. It was like one of those, mystery the keys kind of shows, about like, isn't he in? He's in St. Augustine, right? That's the museum he's in. Is in St. Augustine, Florida,
Uh,
or is he back out on Key
I'm
West now?
trying to find out exactly where he is now.
Yeah, he was in St. Augustine for a while, and then he went out to Key West for a while, and
Yep.
but it's just what's that?
There's a robertthedoll.org website that sort of chronicles Robert the Doll happenings, and I believe that it is the official website for Robert the Doll.
It's one of those things that like
Key West Fort East Martello Museum.
there you go. So, but he's housed in like a Lexan box, and you know, they are people. There's been tales of people that are work at the museum that are terrified to even go near the box because
Oh,
of the feelings that come off this doll.
Allegedly, there have been incidents where people who have not asked permission to photograph Robert the Doll have had curse-like symptoms after their visit in the museum, or people who ridiculed the doll. Like there are stories.
Yeah, that's what I heard. Yeah, I've heard of people that make fun of the fact that, oh, I'm not going to ask some doll for permission to take its picture, that walk away with curse-like
But the
symptoms. Yeah.
great thing is that if you do contact the good people at the Key West Art and Historical Society, they might be able to tell you how you can purchase one of these Robert the Doll replicas. So this is the official Robert the Doll replica that we have here in my office.
And it comes with 1/1000th of the soul
That's what
of
the tag
the
says.
actual Robert the
Yes.
doll.
And
oh, geez.
strangely, I felt like a bit of a pang, and it looks like the number's larger. I don't know what that means. I don't know. It's just on the tag. But I should
I
probably go
don't
weigh
know.
myself.
Oh
But
boy.
yeah, so this is at least the faces. This is relatively like close to what the actual doll looks like. It's not far
Very
off at all.
close. I think that one's a little more detailed than the actual doll.
Got to give Robert the
Speaking
Doll
of
a
really
good cleaning
creepy
here.
dolls,
He's been up on one of the shelves.
have you guys seen the Annabelle movies?
Yeah, I saw one of them, and
Because I believe that is based on a true story.
Yeah, the doll, however, looks very, very different. That doll, I think, still resides in the Ed and
doll,
Lorraine
I think, is
Warren
like
Personal Home Museum, correct, Rob?
yeah, yes, it does. Yeah, Ed and Lorraine still have it in their. It's still in their. I want to. Their house is the museum now, and I want to say that doll is in the basement.
Yeah, and I think the doll is more of like a Raggedy Ann type doll, if I remember correctly, too.
It's been a while since I've looked at the collection that they had, but I thought it had a porcelain face.
Hmm.
But I could be remembering wrong. But that this whole the strangest thing about the Robert the Doll thing is like there's no there was no like I don't believe there was a happening around that doll. I don't believe there was like a death of a child or anything like that around the doll that caused it to have all this. I think it just whatever happened, and it's there.
Oh yeah. The notes, the comments in our chat is saying that I am right. It is a Raggedy Ann doll.
Okay, all right. Yeah, for some reason I thought it was a had a porcelain face, but I'm an idiot. What are you going to do?
Thank you, Brenda and Stacy, for letting me know I'm not an idiot, and I was right about that.
And Stacy is
It's a
always
it's a
right.
very unassuming doll. Like visually when you look at it, obviously for Annabelle, you know, they really wanted to play up the creep factor, and the doll itself has
Yeah.
a very sort of like horrifying visage. But yeah, the real like Raggedy Ann doll is, you know, like I said, very sort of unassuming.
But yeah, well, you know, it's a ginger, so you know what they say about them.
So if you were to go,
That she was less hot than Marianne.
That is a lie. Anyway,
so by the way, if anyone is interested, and we are in no way affiliated with this store or any of the people that sell the Robert the Doll merchandise, but if you are interested, if you do go to the website for robertthedoll.org, there is an online store, and you can purchase the doll that I just showed. Wow, there's a Robert the Doll snow globe. There are magnets. There's a Robert the Doll voodoo like string doll keychain. There's some mugs and stuff. And you can also purchase the true biography of Key West Haunted Doll, the book by David Sloan, on the website.
Let's see if we can get him on. Is there? I'll look into that and see if we can't get him on the
Well,
show. That'd be awesome.
I think I'm going to actually order the book right now. Seriously, like while we're talking, because I do not have this book in my current library, and I sort of need it.
oh, and there's a little Robert the Doll string voodoo doll keychain.
It's very cool stuff. Like, you know, they've really sort of. I like the fact that they've, you know, embraced the Robert the Doll phenomena.
Well, it's a moneymaker.
And yes, it is a moneymaker.
You know, it's funny. Like one of the things that we see, and you know, like investigating the paranormal for years, is that as soon as some place gets some kind of a reputation as being haunted, you know, what people would be like, oh, you want to come investigate our place? You know, sure, come on over and check it out. Then all of a sudden, 3 or 4 groups go through, and there's a little bit of a buzz going around. And the next thing you know, oh, you want to come investigate our place? It's $50 a person, and you know, it's become, you know, this money making, you know, I don't want to say scam, but you know, to an extent, it really has become um, just an unfortunate thing where you know, people are buying these properties, you know, you know, and then bringing people in and just making cash hand over fist on the popularity of the television, you know, phenomenon. And you know, Robert had been a long time before the television phenomenon. You know, that has, you know, there's been stories of that going back into the, you know, if I remember correctly, back into like the 20s and the 30s of, you know, activity going around, you know, that doll. And it's so strange now though that you know, again, you know, the website probably picked up because it got featured on a couple of television. You know, there's people calling up, you know, and so why not? You know, if it helps get, you know, some money to preserve some other areas of the museum, or you know, upgrade some other areas of the museum, you know, I'm all for it. Absolutely.
And Pam in our chat says, why are the rules for the pit? Why are the rules like that for the picture? But he's okay with the mugs. I said, dolls got to make money too.
Yeah.
Well, also, it's a mug, okay? This is the way I look at it. How's Robert going to get up and do these little jigs with that as morning caffeine? Seriously.
Right.
It's all part of a bigger plan.
And you're not stealing part of his soul with a mug, with a picture you are.
He's walking around.
There's a picture of him on the mug.
He's walking around late at night, okay? He's got to get all juiced up for this. Robert the Doll loves coffee as black as his own soul. That's how he takes it. So now this isn't the only haunted doll story. There are many haunted doll stories aside from Robert the Doll and Annabelle. Has anyone heard about this really bizarre story of an Elsa doll from Frozen that hit the news in Houston?
No.
No.
Okay, this is bizarre. Christmas 2013. This is in the Houston area. So this family had this doll, and some of the things that apparently they didn't like about it were as follows. For 2 years, it sang the Let It Go song in English. In 2015, it just started doing it alternating between Spanish and English. There was no button that changed these, it just did it at random. The family owned the doll for more than 6 years and never had to change its batteries. The mother says the doll would randomly begin to speak and sing even with the switch turned off. The family decided in 2019, fuck this doll, we're throwing the damn thing away. Weeks later, it would just magically reappeared inside a bench in their living room. All the children insisted they didn't put it there. And the mother believed them because it would have taken a lot for them to have dug through that garbage to get the doll out. It's very, very strange. Now, apparently, they had enough of Elsa altogether and mailed the doll to a family friend in Minnesota who taped the haunted doll to the front bumper of his truck, where Elsa the haunted doll now resides.
There you go.
Well, I think that probably made Elsa happy because in Houston, it don't snow down there, so she could do her whole "Do you want to build a snowman?" and like, no, there's no snow.
Just ad
So,
nauseum. It's like,
yeah,
I mean, there's like, it's, I mean, come on, it's Minnesota. Minnesota.
Minnesota.
Don't you know?
Don't you? Oh, jeez.
Now, what are your thoughts on? We always say haunted dolls, but what we're really talking about, we're talking about haunted vessels. Is that more appropriate, Rob?
Uh, yes, I think so. We've talked, like having done this for years and years and years, the other case managers in my group, and when we converse with people all the time, and we try to explain to them that it doesn't have to necessarily be what you know like some religious item or some you know special like mirror or brush or whatever. It can be just about anything. I mean, as crazy as this sounds, I have my grandmother's kitchen table, and it still has the little paper tag underneath the kitchen table that says Sears and Roebuck. And I guess the story went that my grandmother would walk by when Sears had windows in the front of their store, and people could look in. She would walk by the front of the Sears, and she would always say, one day I'm going to have enough money to buy that table. And finally she did, and she bought it, and she kept it in her house. And when she passed away, it kind of got put in storage and moved around a little bit, and set it up in my house. And it was always the weirdest thing. Like it, it like I was not one for housekeeping or anything like that. I'll be honest. But that table would never be a mess in the morning when you woke up. It would always be neat. And I mean, there could be still a neat. It would be clean. It would be organized. I'm not saying that, someone in my family did it or whatever, but I never saw any of my kids doing it or anything like that. But there was always this feeling about that table, like my grandmother was just part of that table. So what we try to explain to people is, sometimes it's, somebody just put so much of themselves into something or wanting something that when they finally got it, a part of who they were became part of that vessel, and it's one of those things that you hear about a lot of haunted theaters and a lot of haunted playhouses and things like that. And I believe that kind of goes along with that because those actors and actresses that are on that stage, they're pouring everything they have of themselves into those roles, and they're bringing those roles to life. And I believe that it's like that energy just stays behind, and it can manifest in a lot of different ways. It it can be, in a residual sense, where we've had cases where people will say things like, every night at 10 o'clock, I'll hear footsteps on the stairs, or every morning there's such and such happens. It could be that there was so much spirit put into that, you know so much essence of the person doing those things that just stayed behind. And yes, I see Pam's comment.
And I've got an
uh,
answer for Pam. That's the old Windex cemetery. You don't want to go out there.
yeah. Yeah,
Nothing but
it's
mops and broken broom handles out there.
you
Some
can
dad
people
is bad eye.
people can laugh all they want and be as silly about it all they want. I've seen shit that'll turn you white, to quote Ernie Hudson from Ghostbusters. you know, there's some weird shit out there, and you have the what's his name, Zaphis, with the haunted collector.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Um,
And
and
people are assembling new museums all the time. But I mean, doesn't Zach, what's his name, Baggins? Doesn't he have a new museum in
yeah,
Vegas now where they're collecting
yeah,
artifacts as well?
that fuckstick. Yeah, he's every you want to buy a souvenir T-shirt, they're all mediums. He doesn't sell any T-shirts that would fit a normal human being. You have to squeeze yourself into a medium T-shirt so that your arms look huge, and you know then you have to say things like, "Notice as the spectral orb lands on Aaron's back." It's dust, Zach, you cockbag. Um,
How do you
you know,
really?
Isn't there a room in that museum though that's haunted by, and I think it was quoted accurately, of 5,627 empty Axe spray bottles?
I believe it is.
That's what I've
Right.
heard.
That's what I heard. And 3 bottles of baby oil, 3 empty bottles of baby oil, and thousands of medium T-shirt tags that have been ripped off.
So a creepy story that doesn't involve 3 a.m. roofies taking place on the set of Ghost Adventures. Do you guys want to hear a creepy story?
Sure.
Okay,
Sure.
coming out of Jersey.
Okay.
Okay,
Out of Joey's.
who has heard of the incident in Westfield, New Jersey, involving the six bedroom Freudian slip, house at 657 Boulevard? Is this ringing a bell for anyone? The Watcher
No.
letters?
No.
Okay. So now I'm getting this from, now I've heard the story on multiple, from Associated Press news articles. I am going to go ahead and quote this almost verbatim from a website called The Cut. So this is about the Watcher letter. So one night in June 2014, Derek Broaddus had just finished an evening of painting at his new home in Westfield, New Jersey. When he went outside to check the mail, Derek and his wife, Maria, they had closed on this 6-bedroom house at 657 Boulevard 3 days earlier. So they were doing some renovations before they moved in, so there wasn't much in the mail except a few bills and a white card-shaped envelope. It was addressed in thick, clunky handwriting to the new owner, and the typed note inside began warmly, "Dearest new neighbor at 657 Boulevard, allow me to welcome you to the neighborhood." For the Broadduses, buying 657 Boulevard fulfilled a dream of theirs. Maria, the wife, was raised in Westfield, so the house is only a few blocks away from her childhood home. Now, Derek, the husband, grew up working in Maine, then moved his way up the ladder at an insurance company in Manhattan. He became the senior vice president, very, very large salary. The house itself was a $1.3 million house. Now, again, that's really not saying a lot for northern New Jersey, though. $400,000 basically buys you a coffin there, right? So,
Something like a coffin with a closet.
yeah. And you almost get a backyard. So the Broadduses had bought 657 Boulevard just after Derek celebrated his 40th birthday. Their 3 kids are already debating which of the house's fireplaces. Now, I'm already disliking this family altogether just for their entitlement, but it's going to be okay. Which of the fireplaces Santa Claus would use, right? So, but as Derek kept reading the letter from his new neighbor, it took a turn. How did you end up here? The writer asked. Did 657 Boulevard call to you with its force within? By the way, if this is actually a prank, it's fucking epic and I love it. So the author's reconnaissance had apparently already begun. The letter identified the Broadduses' Honda minivan. That's when you know things are getting ratcheted up, when they call out the minivan, as well as the workers renovating the home. I see already that you have flooded 657 Boulevard with contractors so that you can destroy the house as it was supposed to be. The person wrote then, tisk, 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 bad move. You don't want to make 657 Boulevard unhappy. Early in the week, Derek and Maria had gone to the house and chatted with their new neighbors while their children, who were 5, 8, and 10 years old at the time, ran around the backyard with several kids in the neighborhood. So the letter writer seemed to have noticed, you have children. I have seen them. So far, I think there are 3 that I have counted. The anonymous correspondent wrote, before asking if there were more on the way. Get this. Do you need to fill the house with the young blood I requested? Better for me. Was your old house too small for the growing family, or was it greed to bring me your children? Once I know their names, I will call to them and draw them to me. Imagine finding this letter after you just bought this house. Where the fuck was the fruit basket from the welcoming committee? Come on. This is what you get for 1.2 mil? So the envelope had no return address. Who am I? The person wrote. There are hundreds and hundreds of cars. So just ominous. There are hundreds and hundreds of cars that drive by 657 Boulevard each day. Maybe I am in one. Look at all the windows you can see from 657 Boulevard. Maybe I am in one. Look out any of the many windows in 657 Boulevard at all the people who stroll by each day. Maybe I am one. The letter concluded with a suggestion that this message would not be the last. Welcome, my friends, welcome. Let the party begin. Followed by a signature typed in a cursive font. Going that extra mile, you fucking creeper. The Watcher.
Has anyone noticed that Ash is reading this Watcher letter in his George Takei voice?
Yes.
Make it so.
It was after 10 p.m. and Derek Broaddus was alone. He raced around the house, turning off lights because that's what you do. Right? First, I've got a Watcher. Now, CPL, going through the roof. We can't afford our power bills. So he raced around the house, turning off lights so no one could see inside. Then called the Westfield Police Department. An officer came to the house, read the letter, and said, hey, this is the quote. Oh, my God. This is so New Jersey. This is the quote from the police officer. So let me regress.
Wait. Let me guess.
An officer came to the house, read the letter, and said, what the fuck is this? This is in the article.
That was close.
Oh my God.
I was expecting.
So
forget about it.
So let's pick this back up with, what the fuck is this? He asked Derek if he had enemies and recommended moving a piece of construction equipment from the back porch in case the Watcher tried to toss it through a window. Derek rushed back to his wife and kids, who were living at their old home elsewhere in Westfield, because when you got that kind of money, you know, you can have a couple months wiggle room to move all the furniture in and out. That night, Derek and Maria wrote an email to John and Andrea Woods, the couple who sold them 657 Boulevard, to ask if they had any idea who the Watcher might be or why he or she had written, "I asked the Woods to bring me young blood, and it looks like they listened." Andrea Woods replied the next morning. A few days before moving out, the Woodses, not for sure if that's the correct plural, had also received a letter from the Watcher. The note had been odd, she said, and made similar mention of the Watcher's family observing the house over time. But Andrea said she and her husband had never received anything like it in their 23 years in the house and had thrown the letter away without much thought. What the fuck is this? Okay.
Time out. Is this like What About Bob, where the old couple in the lake is pissed because Richard Dreyfuss bought the house?
Well, funny thing you should mention it, because next Richard Dreyfuss stops by the house. No, that doesn't happen. Okay, Andrea Woods replied the next morning about the letter. That day, the Woods went with Maria to the police station, where Detective Leonard Lugo told her not to tell anyone about the letters, including her new neighbors.
There's a Jersey cop right there.
Good old Lenny Lugo. Lenny the Knife. Most of whom she had never met. And all of whom were now suspects. So they're like, hey, could you stop this? Lenny instantly starts his own investigation, where everyone is a suspect. So the Broadduses spent the coming weeks on high alert. Derek canceled a work trip, and whenever Maria took the kids to the new house, she would yell their names if they wandered into a corner of the yard. When Derek gave a tour of the renovation to a couple on the block, he froze when the wife said, "It'll be nice to have some young blood in the neighborhood." The Broadduses, you know what I think? I think the Broadduses were just assholes. And this was everyone's response. The neighborhood got together and said, fuck these guys. Fuck these Broadduses.
They were probably, going into the modern Jersey architecture where all three of us have driven by Fountains of Wayne before. And, there's probably like 17 Venus de Milos out in the front yard, 17 Marys in a bathtub, one of them giant clamshell things. I'm going back to
how
the
many
Jersey
fucking
accent.
pillows, white goddamn pillows do you need on that front porch?
Yeah.
I swear to God, there's 18 on there. You can never have white pillows.
And they all just got sick and tired of looking at that shit.
You can never have enough white pillows. So the Broadduses were on high alert. A couple weeks pass. Maria stopped by the house to look at some paint samples and check the mail. Guess what was in the mail at 657 Boulevard?
A puppy.
A horse's head.
A horse's head. No. She recognized the thick black lettering. Ooh, that was sexy. On a card-shaped envelope and called the police. Welcome again to your new home at 657 Can't the guy just skip the pleasantries at this point? Welcome again to your new home at 657 Boulevard, the Watcher wrote. The workers have been busy, and I've been watching you unload carfuls of your personal belongings. The dumpster is a nice touch. Have they found what is in the walls yet? In time they will. So this time the Watcher had addressed Derek and Maria directly, misspelling their names as Mr. and that's the real offense. You can talk about my kids. You can talk about the new young blood. You can talk about shit in the walls. Don't misspell my fucking name. Disrespect. Huge disrespect. So had the Watcher been close enough to hear one of the Broadduses contractors addressing them, the Watcher boasted of having learned a lot about the family in the preceding weeks, especially about their children. The letter identified the Broadduses' 3 kids by birth order and by their nicknames, the ones Maria had been yelling. I am pleased to know your names now, and the name of the young blood you have brought to me, it said. You certainly say, oh my. You certainly say their names often. The letter asked about one child in particular, whom the writer had seen using an easel inside an enclosed porch. Is she the artist in the family? The letter continued. Oh, this is a long one, guys. So I really got to dig deep here, okay? 657 Boulevard
right.
is anxious for you to move in. It has been years and years since the young blood ruled the hallways of the house. Have you found all of the secrets it holds yet? Will the young blood play in the basement? Or are they too afraid to go down there alone? I would be very afraid if I were them. It is far away from the rest of the house. If you were upstairs, you would never hear them scream. This is in the goddamn letter. Will they sleep in the attic, or will you all sleep on the second floor? Who has the bedrooms facing the street? I'll know as soon as you move in. It will help me to know who is in which bedroom. Then I can plan better. All of the windows and doors in 657 Boulevard allow me to watch you and track you as you move through the house. Who am I? I am the Watcher and have been in control of 657 Boulevard for the better part of 2 decades now. The Woods family turned it over to you. It was their time to move on and kindly sold it when I asked them to. I pass by many times a day. 657 Boulevard is my job, my life, my obsession. And now you are too, Broaddus family. Welcome to the product of your greed. Greed is what brought the past 3 families to 657 Boulevard, and now it has brought you to me. Have a happy moving in day. You know I will be watching.
Signed,
Okay,
Gordon Gekko.
I'm just going to say there's a lot here. There's a lot about this story. So maybe we just sort of teased it, even though we spent considerable time on it. So if anybody is wondering, I think I'm just going to place the URL in the, let's see if I can, I'll just put it on the page so that anyone who is wanting to further research the story, you got to admit it's bizarre, right? I mean, even if it just is a prank,
Absolutely,
it's definitely a bizarre one.
I will. What gets me is like the use of names and stuff like that. I'll tell you, it's hard to get used to, but once, and I guess you can't really ever say that you are used to it. But like when you start like hearing EVPs and they mention you by name, or you're like, oh, okay, you know, it's definitely unsettling. Um, we did an investigation here in Rochester at a place that it's been featured on a couple of the ghost TV shows. And for some reason, this night that I was there, I was not having going in the basement, not having it at all, not interested in the slightest in going down in that basement. And not fear, nothing like that. I don't necessarily get afraid. I would be terrible at being a paranormal investigator if I did. But I just, I don't know. I had a reservation about it. Well, one of the other groups that was down in the basement, they were collecting EVPs, and one of the people said, why are you here? And the EVP, plain as day, came back. We wait for Rob. Yeah, good thing I didn't go in the basement. So one of our listeners or one of our people in the chat room, Stacy, she did an investigation um, out in Kansas at the Sally House. She had a very similar thing, the listening to the EVP playback and um, something, like God, I wish she would message in right now and tell us what it's actually said. But it was one of those things where like everybody's like, oh, I think it says this, I think it says that, and then she listened to it. And she's no, it's pretty clear. We want you to go, Stacy. Like, you know, get out of here, kind of thing. It those are the kind of things you hear that name like that watcher using the Brodus's names and the nicknames of the kids. That's freaky, man. You just don't get used to that shit.
There have been several incidents, I think, where it is really that direct association. I mean, it's the idea of not knowing and the mystery is still unsettling for a lot of people, but there's still an anonymity to it. Where you can sort of you can handle it until there's that direct association. and then all of a sudden it speaks
Yep.
of involvement. You're no longer just an innocent bystander. You're part of the narrative.
Oh, the message came through from Jen, who was with Stacy on the investigation, and it says, "I'm thinking you need to leave, Stacy." That was the message that came through. Thinking you need to leave, Stacy. So yeah, if I got that, I wouldn't necessarily go right away, but I would be cautious, you know, but still, like you said, that it's uh, that when we did the investigation together and you were on stage and something was like kind of tickling your earlobe or tickling your ear, it's that all of a sudden it gets a little bit too close for comfort,
Or it was
you
like he
know?
was like tugging at his pant leg. He was sitting in that chair that was on the stage. I think he said something was tugging at his
Well,
pant leg on
there
there.
wasn't. Now, what was strange is that there was something. Rob was right. There was something around my ear that kept it. It literally felt like something was sort of around my ear, and it was it was tangible. Like there was some solidity to it. I kept sort of just messing with my ear. Now, what was strange is that I had like I sort of as a clogged ear for like 2 weeks after that. Like I had trouble hearing out of that ear. The ear was clogged. The ear still had this strange phantom sensation in it for a good 2 weeks after that event.
Hmm.
It's that when you get that personal touch that it all of a sudden can get too real. And you start thinking about we did one investigation in a house in Macedon, New York, and the house was a Macedon's a very small town, farming community. It's gotten a lot bigger in recent years, but back in the day, it was not a big place. This house was the doctor's house. It was also the where the funeral parlor was. The whole thing, everything was all one house, one location. And the story goes that there's, as babies were stillborn and the doctor had, delivered these stillborn babies, he just buried them out in the backyard. Residential house, just went out in the backyard, dug a hole, threw the baby in, and covered it up and walked away. And we're out at this house, and the whole time I'm there, I keep saying, God, it feels like this house, storybook. It's like a storybook. Over and over again, I kept saying storybook, storybook. We go back to do the reveal of the evidence that we have, and one of the case managers on the case says to the owner, the whole time Rob was here, he kept saying something about it felt like a storybook. And the lady goes, "What?" She goes, "Yeah, he said it was like a storybook." The lady goes over to the shelf and pulls out a manila envelope, and inside that envelope was a children's book from the 1930s about the doctor that lived in that house. It was a storybook about the doctor that lived in that house. It was like all of a sudden it got a little too real, a little too close for comfort.
Like, yeah, it's time to
You know,
go. I got
we are
something
at
to do
the
over
the top
there.
of the hour, guys.
Not,
This is literally the fastest hour on Facebook. For those of you who are listening, those of you who are watching, what I would like to
Yes.
do is in the next few minutes, since we've sort of leaned towards the more terrifying or violent or unsettling side of the paranormal, can each of us relate one story? Doesn't have to be our own. It can be just a story that we've heard from a friend, family member, story we've heard in passing, something that we've read, something that we've seen. One allegedly true paranormal story that truly, utterly frightened you.
Hmm. I don't do good with fear. Like I said, I'd be terrible at my job if I did. I could definitely tell you one that unnerved the hell out of me. And it's a very true story. Um, Stacy is on our chat. She will verify this. I wish I could have her call in and help tell the story. Yes, Stacy, murder house. We were called to investigate a house. in the Rochester area, greater Rochester area. And we get there, and I was reluctant to go in. Again, it was one of those situations where I got to the doorway, did not want to walk in, did not want to go in this house, wanted nothing to do with it. I paced around in the yard forever. And I got up to the doorway, and I looked at Brian, my other case manager who was there with Stacy, and I said, "Listen, if you want me to go in this house, you're gonna have to like put your foot on my back and like push me through this door. I am not going in on my own. You can't make me." We go in this house, and it was like the weirdest feeling. Um, Stacy said, like my facial expression changed, my eyes changed, everything about my face and my demeanor changed. And the story goes that this woman and her young son lived in the house. They had recently um, kicked out the boyfriend. The boyfriend got back into the house that night and kind of hid. When the woman and the child got home, the boyfriend jumped out and stabbed the woman, I don't know, some incredible number, like 20 something times, I think it was. Then uh, proceeded to tell the kid to go hide in his bedroom and stay there, don't come out. And then the guy tried to kill himself. Well, as we're there, we're relating all these things, and I kept saying, "Oh, I feel like there's a cross behind me. There was like a cross behind me." And the people are like, "Yep, we found this cross up in the attic that had been bent and twisted right above where you're standing." And this whole thing, like this little kid was brave enough, I think he was 8 years old, to get out the window in his bedroom and run next door to tell someone what had just happened to his mother at the hands of her ex-boyfriend. And sadly, she did pass away 3 days later in the house, or not at the in the hospital. And the guy lived, and he's now serving, I don't know, part of a consecutive life sentences, in a New York State prison. But I mean, I was freaked out by that for the longest time. I couldn't sleep for days. I know for a fact I did not sleep more than 10 minutes at a stretch for over a week. Every time I'd fall asleep, I would see my hands covered in blood and like see like red and blue lights flashing on the wall and like bounce up like, holy shit, I just killed somebody and the police are here to get me. It was absolutely just a complete mind fuck, for lack of a better term, having gone in that house. And now that I've told the story, I'm gonna have problems sleeping again because it'll just refresh it all in my head. But it was such a bizarre place to be in. Like the energy in that house was so negative. You could feel it. You could feel the hate and the rage in that house. It just bubbled. And the funny thing is the people were moving out, and they're like, should we move out? And we all went, yes, yeah, you should move out. You should keep going and just move out. As a matter of fact, just leave everything else that you have here, still here, and just go. It's the one time in 20 years of investigating the paranormal that I actually just said to someone, yeah, there's nothing we can do for you, move out. And but it was such, oh, I can't, I mean, I wish Stacy could call in and tell you, her side of it, and maybe she can sometime in the future, but, oh, unbelievable.
So I have a story that maybe isn't that impactful, but
Yeah, we should have had Rob go.
I know, right?
last
It's
on
hard to
that.
follow that story up.
Right?
But this is something.
Well, you fuckers were quiet, and I have a big mouth, so I just started talking.
And I actually have one. It's not. I don't know if we call it a ghost story. I'll let Ash go first, and I'll tell the weird experience
Well,
that I
this
had
was
one
more.
time.
This is just a story about for the most part, just random but intense fear. Now, I'm not really that kind of person who gets scared that often. Usually, I'm the kind of person that's probably going to end up dying first in a horror film. Like, no, I'm pretty sure I know what this is. Let's go ahead and check it out. Oh, you don't want to come with me? That's fine. I'll be back. You know, even though I have years and years
right back
of horror knowledge, like when the real situation presents itself, I just totally shit the bed.
Well, you haven't lost your virginity
Oh,
yet,
thank
so you're
God.
still good there.
So
don't listen that.
so there is a side to me as a collector that just doesn't know better, right? You know, someone could say, listen, I'm pretty sure that, you know, there are 3 vintage Master of the Universe figures in my basement. The lights are out. I don't know where the breaker box is. Do you think you could stumble around and find them? And I'd be like, Masters of the Universe? Sure. Now, that's just sort of part of me and who I am. That means
there's broken glass and kitchen knives all over the
Yeah.
place. But also,
yeah, I mean, I draw the line of stepping on Legos, but the broken glass I'm fine with. So many times I will find, you know, whether it be Facebook Marketplace, it'll be Craigslist, it'll just be forums. If it's within about an hour and a half to 2 hours, I will search for stuff. I will go to people's private residences and literally rummage through their stuff for like circa 80s action figures or audio equipment. Like I'm a big audio guy, so if there's audio equipment that I'm looking for and somebody has some, like I'll go completely out of my way, especially if I'm getting a good deal on it. So we are very, very close to the Illinois-Missouri border. Like a good 50 minutes and we can be in Missouri. So late one night, I'm scouring Facebook Marketplace and I see some audio stuff for sale. And it just so happened to be stuff that I was quite familiar with. And I'm like, oh, these are really good prices. This is stuff that I could use. I'm not looking to buy and resell. Like I definitely can use this stuff. It's about an hour and 40 minutes away. So it's on the outer epicenter of what I'm usually willing to go. So this is, I mean, I probably left the house at like almost 10 o'clock. And I'm like, fine, I'm going to go. I'm going to get this before somebody else gets it. Because I always, that's like always the caveat, right? Is if you don't get it now, it's so cheap, somebody's going to get it that's like 10 minutes away. So I say to the guy, yes, I'm going to be there. I don't know how late you're up, but I could be there by midnight. And the guy's like, that's fine. I'm a night owl. You get it at 1 o'clock in the morning, I'll still sell the stuff to you, which should be a red flag anyways. If the guy's like, just come in, bull. It's
No.
it's like, you're just up drinking. I don't drink beer.
Can you please tell me what this washcloth smells
Right? Yeah.
like?
Oh, I
Baby vomit.
so I take the drive. This guy just so happens to be like one of those guys. This is what he does for a living. So he buys the storage units. The units that basically like fall outside of their lease, and they auction them off. And the guy's got like truck trailers, like semi trailers, right? That he's also purchased that have been just filled with stuff. And I get in there, and of course I'm like a little kid because
bodies, whatever.
Sometimes the truck falls off the back of the truck. So this guy's got all this stuff everywhere. And like there's audio equipment, there's audio interfaces, like cinema quality stuff, right? Like stuff that I would actually use in filmmaking. And I'm like, holy shit, like I'm gonna drop some money. Like and I'm gonna get a lot of stuff. So I get a couple things that we're talking like $500-$600 pieces that the guy's selling for like $100. So I'm really, really excited about this whole thing. Grab all the stuff. By the time I get done talking to the guy, it's like well past midnight. So on the way home, for whatever reason, my GPS is like, turn right at getting fucked. And I take that right. And lo and behold, I land right in the center of getting fucked. It takes me, we are talking in the middle of nowhere in rural Missouri. When you start getting the bending branches where it's like just a cathedral of vine and just knotted wood and twisted trees around you. Now,
was Courtney Gaines there?
End up at a cabin where it's got a swing banging rhythmically against the side, and some eyes show up on the window.
It was very inviting. Join us to me says we're all inclusive. Come right in.
Did you get to meet the blue man?
If that's a reference to how I spent a lot of my nights when I was in junior high, then I met the blue man about every Friday and Saturday. Know him real well. So these sort of labyrinthine rural roads, and again, usually I've done this a million times though, and I get lost all the time. Like, ask anybody that knows me, I get lost all the time. Unless it's my bathroom or my kitchen, I'm probably going to be late. I'm going to get lost.
Dude, you got lost going from the Orange Lantern to your house, but that's
we need another 2 hours for that story. And some document signed too. And we probably got to change a few names. So I'm never, I have spent a lot of these trips, right? Like hunts that I've been on, like real late at night. I'm always going down this road. Hell, the road that I live on is one of these roads, right? It's not something that bothers me. In fact, I sort of like this idea of the remote byways of America. But this one night, out of the blue, on one of these roads, I had the absolute most intense feeling of being watched. And I could not shake it. For the better part of about 25 minutes, the hairs on my arms standing up, just goose flesh. I could literally not shake this feeling of being watched. It was so intense that I was not even all that keen on looking in my rearview mirror. Like, the only thing that I could try to do was try to make sure that, GPS is connecting, I was getting a signal, and that I kept moving. But it was, bar none, the most intense I have felt that feeling in a very, very long time. And to this day, I cannot explain why it was that intense, why it was that jarring. But as far as like an exercise in fear, I was genuinely frightened. And which, again, I've been on a lot of deserted roads in the middle of nowhere doing these hunts where I go from small town to small town. That sometimes there's stretches of, 35, 40 miles where I don't see another car, and it's nowhere near a highway. It's all rural, country gravel roads. But this night in particular, I was genuinely shaken.
That's one of those like lead-ins to the black-eyed kid stories,
Right. It was extremely bizarre, and I've never had that feeling since. Even when I've been in situations where I've felt, and I quote, a presence. Even when I felt a presence, and it's been a little unsettling, there's still equal parts curiosity and still that thirst for knowing. You know what I mean? That thirst for knowledge that sort of bypasses the fear and puts me in a place where I'm a little more comfortable, with the exception of that night. That night was truly, I truly felt that someone had their eyes on me. It was an unmistakable feeling.
I'm telling you, that's one of those lead-ins for the black-eyed kids, like one of those things where, I forget the name of the road in Jersey, but there's supposedly a road in Jersey that like is incredibly haunted, that if you like go down the road, they're like phantom headlights behind you. Did you have that kind of
believe me and Ash have been on that road. I can't remember the name of it right
Well,
offhand,
that's
but
also
I think
a gravity hill as well. That is also one of those where
yeah,
the
yeah. I was gonna say
geography
it.
of the land plays a
Yeah,
lot of tricks on you.
Jay Didymo took us there one night, and then there's the whole thing of the ghost on the side of the road that was walking in a prom
Yeah,
dress or something
and
or a wedding dress.
Jay gave us
Yeah.
like rumple mints and some other stuff. I can remember half that night. So I'm not for sure if we were on
But
Gravity Hill or we were just in Jay's basement.
could go either way. Shoot, after those two stories, mine pales in comparison. But it was like one time when I think I was like 14, 15 years old, my parents were looking at maybe moving further into Danville because you knew where we live out in the
Oh
sticks,
yeah.
quite a ways away. And I believe my parents were like looking to move closer because dad worked at the hospital and needed to be closer to the hospital. So and we went and we looked at this one house, big house that's kind of like up on this hill, and we're walking through, and then there was this one room that was upstairs that we just walked into it, and it just felt off. Like I just did not. Every instinct in me was like, get out of here immediately. And we were walking around, and some more, and like the people that lived there were the ones that were showing us. It wasn't a realtor; it was actually the people who lived there that were moving out were showing us. And I was like, yeah, I got a really weird feeling in this room. And my dad did too. And he's not usually one that's like, you know, that buys into any of that. But I was like, I said something, and then dad was like, yeah, it didn't seem right. And the lady was like, the lady that lived there was like, yeah, when we moved in, this room was filled with dead flowers. And I never got the history of what actually happened or, why that was like that when they moved in. But it's just one of those things. It's like, what happened in this room for this? Everything else in the house to be cleaned out, but this one room to be filled with
Well,
dead flowers.
here's a question that I have for you, Rob. Based on your story, based on my story and Mark's story, we all have these mechanisms, triggered by external things, mainly things that we consider dangerous. People have a heightened awareness when they know that they're being stalked by a predator. People also have again a heightened awareness when they feel that somebody is looking at them. Do you think that there is a built-in mechanism that we have also for things unnatural or supernatural? Do you think that there's still something in our biological makeup that sort of triggers that spidey sense?
I do. Um, if you believe in ghosts, spirits, whatever you want to call them, you think about the human body. The human body is just one giant pulses and synapses and all kinds of just flowing energy through our body. This is controlled by all the neurons firing in your brain telling you to do this, all that electrical impulse. And if you believe physics tells you that energy doesn't die, it just changes form. So I believe that when those things happen and something, leaves that energy behind, our synapses, our sub-electrical makeup in our bodies still have that ability to recognize that, to feel that. It's that, like when you get the goosebumps on your arms, that goes back to, you know, us evolving from whatever it was we evolved from. It's not about anything other than it's standing the hairs up on your body to make your body look bigger as a fear, as a response to a predator or as a response to something else. It's designed to make you look bigger and tougher. And I think that electrical impulse just kind of gets in there. And Pam says, the fight or flight. I think that's more who you are. Fight or flight comes as to who you are. I think subconsciously that electrical impulse kind of gets that turning. Like you said, Ash, that white knuckling on the steering wheel, or Mark, that feeling of, man, I just don't want to be in here. It's that energy that somehow transmits to the energy still active in us, that we can read that flow of energy, because energy doesn't die. It just changes form. It carries on.
Well, I think we've had, first of all, a very interesting discussion tonight. We've veered into some areas that probably require a little more exploration. We're hitting 9:30 now. I want to thank everybody who was in our room tonight, everyone who interacts with us. We are going to be having some guests coming up real soon. We are filling those slots right now, so we've got some great stuff lined up for you. I think we'll be back next week. We'll let everybody know what we've got planned in the interim. You guys okay with being on the air for just a couple more minutes with me, sort of off the air, guys?
Sure.
Okay, thank everybody again for being on with us tonight.